In a time before time, when the skies were filled with golden clouds and the earth was quiet, a presence arrived. The wind stopped moving. The birds fell silent, and even the waves of the sea froze for a moment. It was the arrival of a being not born of earth, but sent from the realms above. His name was Thoth. Nobody knew where he came from. Some said he stepped out of a crack in the sky. Others believed he rose from the Nile itself, born of the stars. But all agreed on one thing. Thoth was not an ordinary being. He walked with the grace of the divine, with eyes that held the memory of galaxies, and his voice carried the weight of eternal truth. He wore no crown, but the air around him shimmered like gold. His robe was white, but it moved like it was made of light itself. On his shoulder perched an ibis, the sacred bird, watching in silence. In his hand, he carried a tablet, but not made of stone or wood. It glowed with symbols that moved and changed as if alive. People gathered, not out of curiosity, but because something deep inside them told them to. They came from cities and deserts, from mountains and farms, walking for days without rest. Nobody told them to come. They just knew. This was the day something beyond their understanding would begin. When Thoth spoke, there was no need for silence. The air carried his voice into every ear, and even those who were deaf could hear him. He said he came from the house of the gods, a place where thought created form and time bent like water. He called himself the messenger, the scribe, and the keeper of the balance. He did not come to rule. He came to reveal. Thoth told them something that shook their world. He said humanity was not the first creation. Before men and women, before animals and oceans, there was a race of beings so pure and full of light, they walked in harmony with the gods. But something happened. A great fall, a mistake, a desire to know too much. And so that ancient race was lost, their memory buried under sand and time. The gods had argued. Some believed knowledge should be shared with the new humans. Others feared it would destroy them. In the end, only one was trusted to carry the sacred knowledge, one who could see time as a river and hold the truth without pride. That one was Thoth. He did not teach with books or scrolls. He taught through dreams, symbols, and light. When people looked into his eyes, they remembered things they had never known, lost memories, feelings from another life, a sense of deep peace mixed with fear, the fear of awakening to something far bigger than anything they had ever imagined. Some fainted at his presence. Others cried without knowing why. A few even ran, unable to handle the energy he brought. But those who stayed began to feel a change. Their thoughts grew deeper. Their hearts became quieter. They started hearing a voice inside them that had been silent for years. The voice of truth. Thoth told them that the time of sleep was ending, that the gods had watched long enough. The world was about to face a choice. Stay blind or remember. He said this choice would not come in a loud moment, but in small ones, in dreams and whispers, in the way the wind moved. He promised that those who were ready would know when the moment came. He pointed to the stars and said, "As above, so below." He pointed to the Nile and said, "As within, so without." Then he placed his glowing tablet on the ground. It sank into the earth like it was made of water. He said, "When the earth is ready, this will rise again." Before he left, a child asked him, "Will we see you again?" Thoth smiled, a smile that felt like it had no end, and said, "I never left. I live in your mind, in every question you ask, in every truth you seek. When you write, I write. When you remember, I speak." And just like that, he was gone. But the people were not the same. The sky was a little clearer. The ground felt more alive. And the silence he left behind was full of meaning. This was only the beginning. Thoth had opened the door. Now, the real story would begin. After Thoth vanished from the eyes of the people, something strange began to happen. Those who had heard his voice started to dream differently. They saw ancient lands, great cities made of crystal and gold, skies with two suns, and tall beings who walked like kings but held no weapons. These were not dreams like before. They felt real, as if the soul was remembering. One man, a farmer, dreamed of standing on a floating mountain that glowed with light. A woman from a distant village saw herself flying over deserts on a ship that moved without sails. A child spoke in a language no one had taught him, drawing symbols in the dirt that made elders tremble. These were not accidents. They were activations. The people began to gather again, sharing what they had seen. The pieces came together like a puzzle, and they realized what Thoth had truly started. He hadn't just spoken. He had awakened the memory of a forgotten history, a history older than Egypt, older than mankind itself. In the stillness of night, Thoth returned, not in body, but in the space between thoughts. He spoke through the wind, through the flickering flames, through the silent space between dreams. And what he revealed shook the very foundation of everything they had believed. He said the gods were not myths or stories. They were real. They came from the stars, from a system known as Sirius, from Orion, and from the Pleiades. These beings had mastered time, space, and thought. They had once walked the earth, not as rulers, but as guides. Some were tall and shining. Others carried animal forms, not because they were beasts, but because they represented forces of nature. There had been a time, the first time, when the earth was in balance. The sky and the land were one, and the veil between the worlds was thin. Humans lived in harmony with the gods. They shared knowledge, energy, and purpose. This time was known as Zep Tepi, the Golden Age. But it did not last. Thoth showed them the fall. It was not sudden, but slow, like a candle dying without wind. Some god became proud. Others began to fight over the direction of mankind. A great war broke out in the heavens. Stars burned. Moons fell. Planets turned to dust. On earth, the balance shattered. The earth shook with rage. Waters rose. The sky turned black. This was the time of the Great Flood, spoken of in all cultures. In Mesopotamia, in India, in Mesoamerica, all told the same story in different ways. It was not just rain. It was a fall of a world. The survivors hid. The gods, divided and weakened, left or went underground. Temples were buried. Libraries burned. Languages were lost. And slowly, humanity forgot. But Thoth did not forget. He hid the truth in symbols, in stone, in myths. He built the great pyramids as time markers, aligned with the stars, to speak when humans were ready to listen again. He told of Atlantis, not a fairy tale, but a powerful civilization that once bridged the gap between man and God. The Atlanteans had machines that worked with thought, cities that glowed without fire, and knowledge that could heal or destroy. But their pride led to their fall. Thoth, one of their last leaders, escaped to Egypt and became its first great teacher. He spoke of others who survived and spread out, to the Andes, to India, to the far north. Everywhere they went, they built stone monuments aligned with stars, carrying one message: remember who you are. Thoth explained that the gods were not only beings in the sky, they were forces within. Each human carried a spark of divine origin. But over time, that spark was buried under fear, lies, and distraction. The true war, he said, was not between light and dark, but between memory and forgetting. He spoke of a hidden brotherhood that had kept the ancient knowledge alive through the ages. They moved in silence, guiding events from behind the curtain of history. They built secret schools, guarded ancient texts, and waited for the right time. That time, Thoth said, was now. He warned that not all gods had good intentions. Some still desired control. They fed on fear, chaos, and division. These were the ones who whispered into the ears of kings, who built empires on blood, and who twisted truth into chains. But their time was ending. The people who heard these things were afraid. If this was true, then their whole world was built on a lie. But Thoth did not bring fear. He brought freedom. He said, truth is not given. It is remembered. And once remembered, it can never be taken. He invited them to look again at their world, the symbols on their temples, the stories of their ancestors, the dreams they thought were only fantasy. He told them, the truth has always been there, hidden in plain sight. And so the people began to dig, not just in the earth, but in themselves. And the more they searched, the more they found. Thoth had lit a fire that could not be put out. The gods were no longer stories in the sky. They were the past that shaped the future. And Thoth had only just begun. As the memories of the gods returned and the lost history of mankind was slowly uncovered, Thoth began to teach the next part of his message, something deeper, more personal, and more powerful. He did not speak of the stars this time, nor of lost cities or ancient wars. He spoke of sound, of vibration, of words. He said, "The universe is not made of matter. It is made of energy, and energy moves with sound." At first, the people did not understand. They had lived their lives believing the world was solid, that stones were hard and rivers were soft, that mountains stood still and fire danced. But Thoth showed them that beneath all things there is movement, a vibration, a pulse, a song. He took a bowl filled with sand and placed it over a drum. Then he struck the drum softly. As the sound traveled, the sand began to move. It formed shapes, first circles, then stars, then symbols. Each time the sound changed, so did the shape. This, Thoth said, is how the world was formed. He explained that in the beginning there was no light, no form, no time, only sound. A pure, deep vibration that held within it every possibility. The gods did not build the world with tools. They spoke it into being. Their words carried such power that mountains rose, rivers carved paths through stone, and life began to grow. Every word was a command, every sound a blueprint. This was the true magic, not tricks or illusions, but creation through vibration. Thoth told them that the human voice still held part of this power. He said, "Every time you speak, you shape reality. Every word is a key. Use it with care." He warned that careless words could create confusion, pain, or even sickness. But words filled with truth and intention could heal, guide, and awaken. He taught them sacred sounds, simple tones that, when spoken with focus, could change the energy of a place or a person. The sound Ma could bring peace. The sound Ra could light the fire within. Hu could open the heart. These were not just sounds. They were forces, ancient tools hidden in plain sight. Thoth explained that the names of the gods were not just labels. They were living vibrations. To speak the name of a god was to call on their essence. When one said Osiris, it was more than a name. It was a doorway to order and rebirth. Isis called forth wisdom and protection. Anubis opened the path between the worlds. And Thoth himself was the key to memory, truth, and the bridge between the divine and the human. He also spoke of silence, the space between sounds. He said, "Silence is not empty. It is the womb of all creation. In silence, the soul hears the whisper of the divine. In silence, thoughts become clear and the heart can remember." He asked the people to spend time in stillness, not just with closed mouths, but with open minds. Only then could they hear the inner voice, the voice of their higher self. One night, under a sky full of stars, Thoth revealed the secret of the sacred word. He told of a word so powerful that when it is spoken with full awareness, it aligns the speaker with the rhythm of the universe. He did not say the word out loud. Instead, he wrote it in light across the sky. The people could not read it with their eyes, but their souls understood. They felt their hearts beat in a new way. Their breath slowed. Some cried, not out of sadness, but because they had touched something ancient and pure inside themselves. That night, many had dreams filled with color and sound. They awoke changed, lighter, stronger, more aware. Thoth explained that the ancient temples were built with sound in mind. The shape of the rooms, the materials used, and the chant spoken inside were all part of a great design. The priests of old knew how to use sound to heal wounds, to open the mind, and to connect with the gods. This knowledge had been lost, but it could return. He spoke of the sacred science of cymatics, the study of how sound creates form. He said that everything in the world, trees, animals, even thoughts, had a frequency. When we are in tune with that frequency, we live in harmony. When we fall out of tune, sickness, confusion, and fear grow. He reminded them, your thoughts have sound. Even if you do not speak them, they shape your world. This was one of the most important lessons, that the inner voice, the thoughts we feed, are just as powerful as the words we say aloud. A single hateful thought, repeated, could darken a person's path. A single kind thought, nourished daily, could open doors of light. Thoth asked the people to watch their speech, not to control it with fear, but with love, to speak truth, even when it is hard, to speak hope even in darkness, and above all, to speak from the heart, because the heart is the center of all creation. He left them with a chant, 3 sounds meant to be spoken each morning with the rising sun. The chant was simple, but when spoken in unity, it changed the air around them. Birds gathered, winds calmed, and the people felt more connected to each other and to something beyond. That day they understood magic was not in potions or spells. It was in the breath, the word, the song of the soul. They saw how the gods had shaped worlds with sound, and how they too, as children of the divine, carried that same gift. The power of creation was in them all along. They just had to remember how to use it. As days turned into weeks, and the people's hearts opened wider, Thoth came again. This time, he didn't arrive with light in the sky or symbols in sand. He came quietly in the space between breaths. His presence filled the air, and those who had begun to understand his ways knew. The next part of the teaching was ready. He stood before them, not with power, but with gentleness. His eyes held something deep, something eternal. This was not about the stars or the voice. This was about the soul. Thoth began with a truth most have forgotten. You are not your body. You are not your thoughts. You are a traveler, and your journey did not begin with your birth, and will not end with your death. He explained that the human soul was made of many layers. The outer layer was a body, which changes and fades. But inside, there's the Ka, the life force that gives movement and hunger and breath. Then there's the Ba, the part that can travel, dream, and feel emotions. But beyond them all, there's the Ak, the shining one, the true self, the part that remembers the stars. The people listened, silent and wide-eyed. They had always believed that death was the end, that the grave was final. But Thoth said no, the grave is a doorway. Not an end, but a beginning. He spoke of the Duat, the realm of the dead, not a place of punishment, but a realm of trials, mirrors, and truth. When the body dies, the soul enters the Duat. There, it must cross rivers of memory and deserts of doubt. It must face its own shadow and answer for the life it lived. Thoth said, every action you take is written in light. Every thought leaves a trace. Nothing is lost. In the hall of Ma'at, the souls stand before the 42 judges. These are not beings of wrath. They are keepers of balance. The heart is placed on a scale and weighed against a feather of truth. If the heart is heavy with lies, greed, or harm, it sinks. But if it is light, full of kindness, honesty, and love, it rises. And if it rises, the soul moves forward, not into a place of golden clouds or endless reward, but into a new journey, a new life, a new lesson, closer each time to the light. He said that death was not a punishment. It was a teacher. Each life is a school, and every life brings the soul closer to wholeness. This is a path of return, the spiral that moves from earth to star, from matter to spirit. But Thoth also warned them, not all souls pass through easily. Some remain stuck, lost in confusion, regret, or fear. These become the wandering spirits, the ghosts in old temples, the whispers in forgotten places. They are not evil, only lost. They need help, remembrance, light. He taught the people how to guide these souls, with words of peace, with candles lit in the name of truth, and with songs that call the Ak back to its path. The people began to sing these songs at night, and for the first time, their ancestors appeared in dreams, smiling, peaceful, free. Thoth showed them how to prepare for death, not with fear, but with joy. To live well, he said, is to die without weight. He told them to forgive, to speak truth, to help others, and to follow the voice within. He said that the greatest power is not to escape death, but to walk through it with light in the heart. He also spoke of the soul's memory, that each person carries echoes of past lives, not as punishment, but as lessons. The fear of water, the love of certain lands, the talents that appear without training, all signs of what the soul remembers. Thoth explained that dreams, visions, and even strong feelings could be windows into these past journeys. He warned against becoming trapped in the past, but said that by understanding it, one could break old patterns and rise faster. The past is not your prison, he said. It is your map. He taught them the symbol of the scarab, a beetle that rolls the sun each day across the sky. The scarab became the sign of rebirth, of the soul's constant movement toward light. People began to wear it as a reminder that they, too, could rise again, not just after death, but each day they chose truth over fear. Thoth also spoke of the higher realms, places beyond the do-it, where the soul, once purified, could rest in harmony. These realms were not physical, but made of thought, light, and pure being. Only those who mastered their desires and lived from the heart could enter these places. He called them the fields of peace, where the soul joins with others in a great dance of light, creating new stars, guiding new worlds. One night, he took the people into deep meditation. He guided them out of the body, past the breath, past the mind, into a space of silence. There, many saw colors they had never seen, felt peace they could not describe. Some met loved ones who had passed. Others heard music that seemed to come from beyond the stars. When they returned, they were changed, not just in belief, but in being. They were no longer afraid of death. They had seen a glimpse of what waits beyond. And Thoth once again reminded them, "You are not here to stay. You are here to grow. You are light on a journey back to the source." From that day forward, the people no longer mourned the dead with sorrow, but with song. They celebrated each life as a chapter in the soul's great story. And they lived each day with greater care, not just for themselves, but for each other. They knew now every act, every word, every breath was shaping the soul. And the soul, guided by truth, balanced by might, and remembered by Thoth, would never be lost. After the people began to understand the soul and the journey beyond death, a stillness came over them. It was not silence, but the quiet that comes when something sacred is about to be spoken. They felt in the wind, in the weight of the air, in the deep sense that something hidden for ages was finally about to rise. Thoth appeared again, not in light or dreams, but through a feeling, a pull inside the chest that drew each person to the center of the sacred valley. They gathered in the soft golden light of morning. No one spoke. They waited, and Thoth, the scribe of the gods, gave them what had long been forbidden. He began not with a story, but with a question. "Do you know who you really are?" The people thought they did. They were farmers, builders, mothers, seekers. But Thoth shook his head. "You are more, much more. You were not made to crawl on the ground. You were born of stars. You were meant to shine." He told them of the divine spark, the sacred flame hidden in every human. Not a symbol, but real energy buried deep within the soul. This spark, he said, is a piece of the original fire that created all things. It is not from earth. It is older than planets, older than time. It is the same spark the gods carry, the one that gives them their power. In the beginning, humans walked as gods. They could speak with the wind, move with the stars, and heal with a glance. The temples were not places of worship, but of training. People were taught to awaken the spark, to grow it, to live as light in human form. But something changed. Thoth said that long ago, a great fear entered the world, a fear of power, a fear of freedom. There were those, even among the gods, who believed that humans should not hold such strength. They feared that if mankind remembered their true nature, they would no longer follow, no longer bow, no longer be ruled. So the knowledge was hidden. The sacred texts were sealed in stone. The temples were closed. The schools of light fell. The world became divided. Outer truth was taught, but inner truth was locked away. People were told to pray, Thoth said, but not to remember. The spark remained, but it was covered by fear, by doubt, by the noise of the world. People forgot how to listen to the silence. They forgot how to feel the divine inside their own breath. And the teachings that could awaken them were labeled dangerous, forbidden, even evil. Thoth had come to return what was lost. He spoke of the eye of the heart, a center in the chest where the soul and the divine spark meet. He taught them how to breathe with awareness, to quiet the mind, and to feel the fire within. It was not imagination. It was real. And those who followed his words began to feel a soft warmth rise inside, like a light waking up after a long sleep. He warned them that this path was not easy. To awaken the spark meant facing everything that had buried it. Fear, anger, jealousy, shame. These were the shadows the gods had feared. But Thoth did not fear them. He said, "The light does not fight the darkness. It reveals it." The people learned to sit in stillness, to watch their own thoughts, to see the false beliefs they carried, that they were weak, that they were alone, that they were born only to suffer and die. These were not truths. They were cages. And one by one, those cages began to break. Thoth also revealed the secrets of the body, how it was designed not just for survival, but for awakening. He spoke of the spine as a ladder of light, with 7 sacred gates, called a seppuku. These gates, when opened, allow the divine spark to rise. He taught them chants and movements to unlock these gates. He said, "Your body is a temple. Keep it pure. Use it with care." He told them that food, thought, breath, and sound could all either feed the spark or dim it. He taught that sleep was a doorway, and that dreams were not just images, but real journeys. He explained how to enter sleep with intention, to ask questions and return with answers. Many began to have visions. Some even brought back knowledge they had no way of knowing. But not all welcomed these teachings. There were those among the people, priests, rulers, merchants, who saw the change and grew afraid. If everyone awakened, who would follow their orders? Who would believe their lies? They whispered that those teachings were dangerous, that they would bring chaos. They said only the chosen should know such things. Thoth faced them calmly. "Truth does not fear questions," he said. "Only lies do." Still, the resistance grew. Statues were broken. Sacred gatherings were watched. Some who followed Thoth were taken, questioned, even banished. But they did not stop, because something inside them had already awakened. And once the flame is lit, it cannot be unlit. Thoth then shared the final part of the forbidden teaching. He said that every human carries a divine name, a secret sound that holds their true purpose. This name is not given by parents. It is heard in moments of deep silence, in dreams, or in near-death experiences. When spoken aloud with truth, this name unlocks great energy and guidance. He told them how to seek it. "When you find your name," he said, "you will find your path." People began to change. They walked with more purpose. Their eyes held more light. They helped each other without asking why. They saw the divine in children, in strangers, even in those who once hurt them, because they understood the spark lives in all. And Thoth smiled. He knew the ancient light had returned, not in the temples, not in the skies, but in the people. The sky over the valley changed. It was not night, and it was not day. The light was soft, like the breath between sleeping and waking. A quiet wind moved through the trees, and the people felt it, the same presence they had come to know not just as a teacher, but as something more. Thoth was with them again, but this time it felt different. He did not stand on a stone. He did not raise his voice. He walked among them, simple, gentle, quiet. He looked into their eyes, each one, and they felt as if he saw everything they had ever been and everything they were yet to become. He told them, "You have remembered much, but one truth still remains. It is the deepest truth, the final key, the light that once shaped the stars." Everyone leaned in, not with their bodies, with their souls. This was no longer a lesson. It was a prophecy. Thoth said, "A time will come when the world will forget again." At first, the people were confused. They had just awakened. How could they ever go back to sleep? But he continued, "This world moves in circles. After the light comes the shadow. After the rise comes the fall. This is the dance of time." He spoke of a future, far from their own time, when cities would rise like mountains made not of stone but of metal and glass, where people would fly through the skies, speak across great distances, and hold knowledge in their hands. But despite all this, they would be lost. "They will know much," he said, "but remember little." Thoth described a world where humans forget the soul, where the heart becomes closed, where silence is feared and speed is worshipped, where light is hidden not by force, but by distraction. People would chase power, pleasure, and possessions, but forget peace. And yet, he smiled, there will be a spark. He told them that in the darkest of times, a light will return, not from the sky, but from within, that the divine spark, the same flame he had helped them awaken, would rise again in others, not in one place, but all over the world, in every land, in every people. He called them the rememberers. These would be people who feel the truth in their bones, who see through the lies of the world, who are born with eyes that carry memories of stars. They will not always know why they feel different. They will face doubt, even suffering. But they will carry the same fire he had lit long ago, and just like the first time, they will awaken others. He said, "You will not know their names. They will not wear crowns, but their hearts will burn like suns. Some will speak, some will heal, some will simply live in a way that brings others home. Their power will not be in what they say, but in what they are, living symbols, quiet lights, ancient souls in modern form." Thoth warned that the old powers, those who wanted the truth, will return stronger and more clever. They will use new tools, new stories, new chains. But the rememberers will not be stopped, because their strength is not from the outside. It is from the flame within. He said that this final awakening will not come all at once. It will rise like the morning sun, first a glow, then a light, then a fire no one can ignore. And when that fire burns bright enough, something ancient will return, the ancient light. He did not call it a god or a person or a force. He called it a remembering, a wave of truth so strong it melts the illusions of the world. When it comes, lies will fall like dry leaves. Fear will lose its grip, and humanity will finally see itself clearly, not as broken, not as fallen, but as divine. He described a time when temples will not be made of stone, but of action, when worship will not be in words, but in how we treat each other, when every child will grow up knowing, you are not here to survive, you are here to shine. And then he gave his final warning. There will be a great test. Before the light returns, the world will shake, old systems will collapse, shadows will rise, people will be forced to choose, truth or comfort, love or fear, light or sleep. Many will turn away, but those who stay true, even when it hurts, will become the seeds of a new world. He told them not to fear this time. It is not the end. It is the beginning. He said, the fire cannot rise until the ashes fall. And finally, Thoth placed his hand on the earth. A soft light spread from his fingers. He whispered a sound, not a word, but a vibration. The ground beneath them shimmered. And in that moment, they all felt it, the connection between their hearts and the stars, between their breath and the first breath of creation. He looked at them one last time. You are not waiting for the gods. You are the gods waking from a dream. Then he turned and began to walk into the light. As he faded, a wind moved through the valley, not loud, not wild, just enough to remind them that something had changed. Not outside, but inside. The people stood in silence, their hearts full, their eyes wide, their souls shining. They did not need to ask what to do next. They already knew.